Ice axes used to be different, and they were all generally designed in the same way. Straight shaft, straight pick with a spike in the bottom. And they were really good for longer glaciated walks or steeper snow. So think something like the normal route up Mont Blanc. You could probably still do that route with an old-fashioned ice axe. Might be a bit heavy, but it would do the job. However, things have moved on and materials have improved and changed, and the type of climbing that we now do is different. So ice axes have evolved and moved on. But the walking / non-technical axe of old still has a place today. It's just been a little bit upgraded. So we're going to start with the Gribble Ertech Evolution. This axe cost around 150 euros on the EpicTV shop. At the time of making this video, things tend to fluctuate a little bit. This is the 66cm version, and on the shop you can buy different lengths of it depending on how tall you are and how much walking you actually want to do with the thing. It weighs 430 grams, which is fairly light, so if you're doing those big walks, it's not going to weigh you down too much. The shaft, as you can see, is fairly straight. There's a plunging spike at the bottom, and although the tip is curved, it's not as aggressive as other axes we'll see in a bit. Now, don't be mistaken into thinking this is a beginner ice axe. That's not true. I mean, sure, it's better at routes that are slightly easier, so there's long glaciated walks. Again, think that Mont Blanc thing. But having one of these in your arsenal is just a good idea because you can climb harder routes. For example, the classic Cosmique's Arête in Chamonix, AD Plus, has some steeper sections on it, but I've climbed it with a walking axe and it was absolutely fine. In fact, it was easier in sections because on those bits where it's a bit of unconsolidated snow, you can plunge it in and steady yourself. You don't need something super aggressive on a route like that. Although, of course, conditions are dependent. This model comes with a pick with an adze on the end of it, and an adze is basically a mini spade, and it's got lots of uses when you're alpine climbing. You can dig out gear placements, you can just take off all that unconsolidated snow off a ledge, you can chip away snow to melt in your canister when you get thirsty, or, as I've used it, you can dig in a tent when you're on a very windy glacier. It's got lots of uses, and it fits perfectly with an axe like this. We need to talk about the type of picks on ice axes before we go any further. And there are two main types, B-rated and T-rated picks. Sometimes they're called type 1 or type 2 picks, but we'll call it B and T because that's what most people seem to use. Now, a B-rated pick is lighter and it's slightly weaker, but it is designed for normal snow bashing or a little bit of ice. Something like this is a T-rated pick, and that's tougher, stronger, but a little bit heavier. It's designed to be torqued into cracks. So if you're on a mixed section and you're changing between ice or snow and then you need to hook a bit of rock or a crack and kind of twist the axe, this pick shouldn't break on you. It's tougher. And by including a T-rated pick in this ice axe, Gribble have been very clear that they expect this thing to be abused a little bit more than just a normal walking axe. Another nice feature on this axe is the leash and this movable finger trigger / hand protector. Now you can move and adjust that depending on the type of terrain you're on. So if you're on something steeper, you can slide it down, use it as a finger rest, or if you're plunging a lot, you can move it up just to protect your hands, or if you're kind of knife blading in, again, it protects your hands. So nice, versatile axe. This is the Petzl Summit Evo. It's around 110 euros on the EpicTV shop, about 400 grams, and is about 55 centimeters in length, so slightly shorter. The idea behind axes like this is you can strap it to your pack and take it up ski touring, and it's not as long and doesn't get in the way when you're trying to ski down the things as a walking axe. This has a B-rated pick, which is no disadvantage. It just means you won't really be torquing this into cracks. But honestly, if you're in that kind of terrain and you're trying to ski somewhere, you need to have a different axe anyway. I love the handle on this thing. It's nice and long and feels fantastic in your hand and is a good mid-range. But there are lighter alternatives to that ski mountaineering section. If you really want to go fast and light for ski touring, check out the Petzl Ride for around 70 euros on the EpicTV shop. Only 240 grams and very compact in size. Being that lightweight, you do lose a bit of swing power, but generally you don't need that for the type of terrain you're going to be on. Right, let's move on to section 2, which is more technical axes for steeper terrain. These type of axes can be used for about, I reckon, 80% of alpinism. So terrain where it's getting steeper, but there's still that mixed range. You might approach it, climb a steep section, and then have to descend. These axes are fantastic all-rounders. This is the Casson X All Mountain. This axe costs around 170 euros on the EpicTV shop and about 595 grams. Now that is a bit heavier than the walking axes, but you want it heavier because of the increase in the amount of swinging you're going to be. You want some more heft in the shaft and at the pick side to help that swing and allow you to embed into harder, tougher ice. As you can see, the profile of the axe is completely different. It's way more aggressive, more curved, and is all set up for that swing. T-rated pick up top, so you know it's going to get your back in hard conditions. A nice ergonomic handle that's insulated for when it gets cold, but there's still that spike at the bottom. So if you want to plunge it into the snow whilst you're walking, this will cover that. Another feature of axes in this category is the picks tend to be interchangeable. So this has got little screws that you can take out and put maybe more of a specific dry tooling pick in, or if you've sharpened this to death and it's never going to be sharpened any longer, you can swap it out, put a new one in for around about 35–40 euros, and you've almost got a brand new axe. So a good feature on these style of ice axes. Another axe that's one of my favourite is the Petzl Quark. The Quark weighs 550 grams and costs around 170 euros on the shop, although we might have better discounts on Petzl gear when you watch this. I love the versatility of this ice axe and especially the trigger grip. I like the little extra orange finger grip on it, and that can be adjusted up and down depending on your hand size. It feels a bit like holding a medieval weapon. Now, one thing that's worth noting with axes like this is whereas before we had this adze, so the shovel type thing, when you get a more technical axe and you've got two of them, one will have an adze usually, and one will have this hammer thing. Why do you need a hammer thing? Well, to hammer stuff, basically. Usually either gear into a crack or getting gear out of a crack. They're especially good for wodging in hexes in Scottish winter climbing. You can also, again, knock in tent pegs, knock in anchors, and also pitons you can bang in if you need them. It's good to have both, one of each, on a set of ice axes, but sometimes you can swap out the hammer and adze and swap them around depending on the type of climbing you're going to be doing. Okay, let's move on to section 3, highly specific, specialized ice axes. These axes are designed for terrain when it gets seriously steep and overhanging. So think hard dry tooling or very steep water ice 5–6 ice climbs. We're also going to cover some for fast and light north faces. So we're going to start with the Petzl Namik, and straight away you'll notice the extra aggressive curve and the extra aggressive pick angle. The handles on these kind of ice axes tend to be different as well. They're better for when you're hanging upside down, which is what you'll spend a lot of time doing if you go dry tooling. It just feels different when we look at a comparative handle on something that is a bit more all-round. As you'd expect from a higher end, specifically designed axe, they are more expensive, around about 200 euros each on the EpicTV shop, although with most of the products I've talked about, you can pick up package deals, so you'll save some money if you're buying two axes together. This weighs about 585 grams, which again, a bit heavier, but helps with that swing. And it can come with specific pick weights here, so you can increase them if you want a heavier swing into the rock. It is all about the swing on this ice axe, and it just feels fantastic in your hand. You can really crack it into some hard ice, and it's great for when you're reaching back over your head, hooking things, and Stein pulls with that handle allows you to easily swap into a better grip for those types of moves. I'm doing a Stein pull! You'll notice on this axe it doesn't have that spike on the bottom, and that's because you won't tend to be approaching as much using an axe. But with this, it does have this slightly sort of ridged dinosaur style spikes, which can be useful for plunging. It doesn't have a hammer or an adze, although you can actually get an attachment, I think, for Petzl, but you don't really need one in the type of terrain you're going to be doing. You're going to be wodging in ice screws or chucking in cams, not hammering in pitons or hexes as much with something like this, and it keeps the whole thing streamlined. It also doesn't twat you in the face when you're dry tooling and something pops off, which is very useful. An alternative is the Casson Extreme, which is about the same price on the shop. Now with that axe, you can adjust the handle between dry and ice modes, so to allow for performance on any type of terrain. The axe, in fact, has loads of adjustability, so if you're a tinkerer, you can tinker to your heart's content. If you've done any type of alpine climbing, you will have hammered into your brain that speed is safety. And it's true, you need to be moving fast in an alpine environment to get out of there quick, not faff around, and not let those summer storms or winter storms come in and take you out. So if you are aiming for big north face climbs, think north face of the Matterhorn, north face of the Eiger, technical, fast terrain, then you might want something like the Gribble North Face Machine Carbon. Now, it may just be me, but I do think that this is the sexiest ice axe I've ever held in my hand, and I don't own one, but I really, really want one. It is made of carbon, which keeps things really light, and stripped down like this, it's only 450 grams, but still has a nice heft in it. T-rated pick, of course, that you can swap out, and it is Gribble's hyper-aggressive T-pick. As well as being lightweight, that carbon also acts as an excellent insulator, so you won't feel the cold when you're grabbing it with gloves on as much as you would with some of these other non-carbon ice axes. Being carbon, you think it would be a little bit more susceptible to getting bashed and damaged, but if I had a set of these, they would stay in a beautiful cabinet and I'd only take them out when things were getting very serious and I needed the best kit available. I do think it's gorgeous, it's premium, the price reflects that, it's around 250 euros on the EpicTV shop, but if you're the type of climber who needs one of these, then you know you need one of these and you know how good this thing is. Finally, I want to look at the Black Diamond Fuel Ice Axe. Now this is a weighty beast at about 638 grams. Why is it so heavy? Well, the heavier the axe, the more weights are shoved down towards the pick, the better it is for getting into ice, especially bullet hard blue ice. This won't be great if you're trudging up long, big, snowy hills with, but this is a very specific ice climbing / dry tooling tool. I like the handle on this. I like the all plastic construction because personally I get freezing cold hands and anything that can help protect them is good for me. And a handle like this is great when you've got bulkier gloves on. So if you're just seconding a route and you need your big pair of bulky gloves, this has got your back. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of steep, hard ice climbing. Terrifies me, but if you are and if you want to get into it, a heavier axe like this is where you need to be looking at. So there you go, 3 main categories of ice axes and a few examples so that you can start to understand what type of axes you need for different terrain. I've got a few ice axes in my collection. I've got a very light one for ski touring. I've got my Namik that I use for mostly everything because I lost my Quark. So where I'm missing is that mid-range axe, like the X All Mountain. Something like that would be great for my arsenal because, well, I lost mine. Do let me know what you think of these ice axes because I think ice axes are quite a specific thing. It's all about feel. Sometimes you just pick up an axe and it feels great and you feel like a machine and a weapon and it's fantastic, and sometimes you'll pick it up and it just doesn't feel right in your hand. So I'd recommend trying a few, swinging a few and finding the right ice axe for you. Also, don't be tricked into thinking you need to get something like the Namik straight away. The Quark will do most climbers for most terrain they need, so you don't necessarily need to go for the biggest, best and more expensive, especially if you're starting your alpine climbing journey. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and all the links to these products, if we sell them on the shop, are down below in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.